Culture is not a thing that can go into extinction no matter how hard we try to forget the culture of our nation. Art and culture has been in existence since the evolution of mankind. We have we humans are born with our culture and has greatly influenced our every ways of life. It's surprising that animals also have their own culture. Culture is not a thing that can go into extinction no matter how hard we try to forget the culture of our origin. There are a whole lot of countries in the world with different culture, and in between the countries, there are a whole lot of states, provinces, regions, and different cultures. During the period of colonization, Nigeria, as an example, seeing the significance of culture in the people and the economy. It was the first tool that was used to colonize West Africa. And we Nigerians till today are still suffering so much on how to regain our culture, to respect our culture, to modify our culture. Arts and culture are the backbone of our country's existence. It cannot be forgotten, not nor should it be disrespected. It defines our modes of dressing, it defines our attitude, it defines our morals, it defines our lifestyles. Many of Nigerians today have forgotten the importance of arts and culture in our existence, and this breaks a lot of hearts so much. They won't say that all governments have neglected culture, but some have. There are no enough galleries to display artworks. Recognition are being given to the talented youth with their different beautiful artworks. Our tourist centers are not being developed. Culture promotes economic development, it develops the economy. It's a tool for sustainable development. Hello and welcome. I am Anita Patrick, your host for your program, Governance Today. And on the program, we'll be talking about the issues surrounding art, culture, and its creativity, and how well art can flow with the economy as well. And joining me today on the program to talk about these issues around art and nation building, how art can also add to the diversification of Nigeria's economy, is the founder and creative director, African Development Foundation, in person of Prince Abata Zadok. Good evening.
Good evening, Anete.
I'm sorry, but I didn't murder the name.
Yeah.
I did a bit.
Yeah, you did try.
I'm sorry.
Abiata Zadok.
Abiata Zadok.
Yes.
Okay. So much. Just like I gave at during the prologue, there a lot to talk about with art and culture. It has its way of fitting into themselves, looking at from the history of colonization. As an expert in this field, what would you say art is to the Nigerian people?
Well, basically, art as it is the total embodiment of a personality. Your art talks about you, it depicts you, it's all about your history and what makes you you. Now, the first thing you do if you want to destroy a person is to take away his identity.
Okay.
If you don't have an identity, you don't have a personality. And that is what happened to the people that were colonized by the French, where you have the French policy of assimilation, where their cultures, their languages, you know, were completely annihilated. They had to forego their languages and their cultures to imbibe the French culture and languages. So that completely has destroyed those people's identity because they no longer have an identity, and neither do they have a history, except for those that are battling to keep such alive. It's not a different thing too to even those that were colonized by the British, you know, except for people who took deliberate steps like India
Okay.
to reject such colonialist approach to keep their languages and their identity. You see what's happening in Nigeria and most of the West African countries. So basically, if we have to amount to anything, we have to deliberately take steps to revive our cultures, to give pride. Our people must take pride in our values, in our value systems, because in our cultures are embedded our value systems, and the lack of these values are what we are seeing that are bringing about breakdown in our systems today, from the primary school to the highest peak of the governance level. So these are things that we have to take, and of course take deliberate steps to revive and keep alive.
Okay, if we're looking at how to revive the whole value given to art, I remember growing up as a child in primary school, coming up, there was this subject called art, which spelt out for people what they need to understand with art. It has to go. Then, as we grew up into secondary school, we had that of the history, which also falls into the art department, which also falls back to using history to give back in paintings and all that. Do you think that is still helping the younger ones understand the value of the Nigerian culture as a whole?
Yes, a person without a history does not have a past. And if you don't have a past, obviously your future is endangered. Now, when we were growing up, we read history, and in history, we were taught how great the African empire, the African continent was. How that the first university in the world was in Timbuktu. The first university people come from Europe to study in Africa. Apart from that, we've learned how that Africa educated the world. And how did Africa educated the world? Like I earlier said, the first university was in Africa. The Egyptians educated the Greeks. The Greeks educated the Romans. Okay? The Romans conquered the world. And of course, they gave education to Europe. And before, Western education now came to us in Western languages. It doesn't take away the fact that we educated the world. Now, except through history, you don't get to know this. And when people don't know their history, they lack pride. They lack the confidence to be themselves. And that is why you see a lot of people have very negative, what's the word, mental picture of themselves. Our people feel or still feel they have to speak with some intonations, Western intonations, to amount to something. But no, you've got the real thing, and we've got to be proud of what we have. Without history, you don't know these things. So if the history is taken away, valuable information that should give people their pride of place is taken away. My art is the totality of my being, because I get inspiration from my environment. I get inspiration from my interaction with people and with the nature around me. So there's no artist, be you a literary artist, a creative artist, okay, a painter, a sculptor, or whatever you do, your environment influences your creativity. And in a nutshell, that is your being. So you can create anything out of who you are or what you are. And that is why the unique aspect of an African has so much to offer the world that the world has not yet seen.
Okay. All right. It's good you painted the picture for everyone watching us there to understand the value behind the art itself, and knowing that it's not just about the ones you paint. It's all about the human nature, because it's living, is what you put out, your attitude, your morals, your lifestyle,
That's
and
right.
all. Let's look at the significance, the relevance. Yes, it still falls down to value, like you mentioned, but how would you relate that to the economy? if all of this, if art is valuable, it's our lifestyle, how do we relate it to making the nation stand out in terms of the economy? How do we sell this art? Yes, it's our history, but it's also part of what should give us value in terms of finance.
Well, talking about packaging arts or the creative industry for financial gains is something that other countries have done and are still doing, and they are doing it successfully. And in doing that, they are creating values in their system. And what values are they creating? They are creating employment. They are deepening their economy. They are preserving their languages and their cultures through this. So it's it's more than killing plenty birds with a stone. It has a replica effect in the economy. The statistician general told us that the creative industry contributes 34% to our GDP. Now imagine what that does. It does not only do that, it also generates about 20% employment. So imagine if government has invested in the creative industry. The Chinese, from time immemorial, from early 70s, late 60s and early 70s, you hear of Bruce Lee and things like that, names like that, and you grow up thinking that Bruce Lee was a Nigerian, because mostly the way we call Bruce Lee, and of course you also have Indian films that you find our friends speaking Indian language that they don't even understand what it is, you know. And whenever they're going to show Indian film, people get glued to their screens. That was in years past. And up to today, the Indian film industry, the Bollywood, is a money spinner to the Indian nation. And so is the Chinese film doing to China. You have seen what Nollywood has done in terms of positively impacting the Nigerian economy in the few years that Nollywood had come to be. So, if government should invest more into creative industry, we wouldn't be talking of oil. We wouldn't be looking only at oil as a source of revenue or foreign exchange earner for the nation. There's so much that we've not even scratched the surface. Imagine government encouraging script writers, musicians, writers, okay, and a lot more. You're talking about people who paint, they tell their own stories on canvas and other mediums. Our whole creative industry is left untapped, and the world is waiting for the Nigerian story in all these particular expressions we're talking about.
Okay, I've seen across the globe where the culture or the arts, or let's say the sites where they have natural resources, they tend to take advantage. I'm going to come back to my prologue here, where, for instance, there are no enough galleries to display artworks, which is one of the major challenges I know the arts industry or the creative industry has.
Yep.
Uh, what has been the role for experts like you or passionate um, directors like you, creative directors like you? What have been your push for more of these galleries to showcase the Nigerian culture or the artwork done by individuals?
Well, basically, most of the galleries you have that you can call galleries are private initiatives by individuals that are art enthusiasts.
Okay.
Okay? Uh, yes, you have government showing interest in doing that, but that interest does not go beyond the surface because The artifacts are not being kept well. The galleries are out of touch with modern techniques of preservation, and curation of these things. And the people that even man the galleries do not have the requisite experience and exposure to see that these things are well curated and preserved.
Okay.
So, neither is government also encouraging the individuals. So you see, a lot of people are doing these things out of passion. Not because government is encouraging them, but because they know the value of these things, and that's their way of contributing. Now, the African Theatre Development Foundation, which I run, came up as a child of necessity. Why? Because we saw that we're losing our languages and we're losing our values. And we thought the best way we can address this issue is using the theater as a platform for engagement, to see that we preserve as much as we can. It will surprise you to note that a lot of people in urban settings, and most too even in rural areas, are disconnected with their languages. So if a 35-year-old cannot speak his or her language, in the next 15 years, such a person is going to be a leader, an elder, given the life expectancy in Nigeria. And so if in the next 15 years, a 35-year-old will be 50 and will be a spotlight, an elder to be looked upon, and he cannot say anything about his background, that tells you that such background is lost. And there are no two generations in the gap. This is the last generation before we face that extinction, which is staring at us. And this is not only about the museums you talk about. It's just a small aspect of this particular threat that is staring at us in the face. Yes, our artifacts, even the ones that were stolen, which were asking to be repatriated, do we have the state-of-the-art galleries that will preserve them?
So you mentioned the fact that languages, which of course is very obvious, seem to be going into extinction, especially with the younger generation. I know a lot of young minds are having the issue of understanding the value or the need to even understand their language, their dialect, which is also supposed to pass on to the next generation. What would you say is the cost? Could it be, because I know a lot of encouragement goes out for intertribal marriages, and yet there's no push for a child to understand their language, which is also defacing the whole essence. What could be the challenge around this?
Well, it's so easy to think intertribal marriages are responsible. Uh, I think it's a matter of priority. Priority in the sense that if parents see the need to teach their languages to their children will learn very well. Intertribal marriages are not responsible. I'm from Adamawa State. My wife is from Niger State. So we obviously have different backgrounds. But then, it's been proven scientifically that children can speak 11 languages before they are 10. And you don't need to teach them. Just keep them where those languages are spoken. They will pick them naturally. Now, we took deliberate steps to make sure that these children understand these languages. And of course, they pick them and they speak them. And they even write them. So it's not about intertribal marriages.
Okay.
A lot of parents today don't even spend time with their children.
Okay.
The mother is gone to work, the father is gone to work, they don't get to see the children. They bond them and give them over to the nannies. And that's just that.
And then morals, the whole essence of guiding them just dies off.
Exactly. So, blaming intertribal marriages is just an easy way out, which is just not the issue.
Okay. All right. I'm not really blaming. I'm just saying, could that be one of the challenges? I'm not blaming it on it. I'm just asking because
Well, like I
I've
said,
seen.
I think the basic thing is priorities.
Okay.
If we see the fact that it's important
Mm,
to pass over this heritage over to the children,
mm,
our parents made it a point of duty to see that we, I mean, it did not go extinct during their watch.
mm.
It was passed over to us. Why shouldn't we also make it a point of duty and
To
responsibility
pass it on as well.
to pass this over to our children? I met a group of Nigerians, you know, in Turkey, and these guys were speaking fluently, flawless in their languages. In they're Nigerians, okay, and they are coming back to Nigeria. And I asked them, I said, oh, they said this is the first time that children are coming to Nigeria. I said, but how come you're speaking? They said outside the house, you know, is the only place. But once they are home, the only thing they speak is their native language. But right here in Nigeria, you have a lot of people not speaking their languages to their children. In one of the programs we hosted, like I said, we normally engage people, you know, 35 and below. And somebody said to us, she doesn't speak her native language. Why? Her only reason was that her father and mother only speak their native language when they have a misunderstanding. So to her, her native language is a language of violence. English is the language for love.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Really.
So you can see.
That's an interesting one.
Exactly. So who do you blame? The child or the parents? So basically, the blame lies squarely with the parents, because parents are not doing enough to see that these children speak their native languages. Even the folk tales that we were told,
Yes, as children.
which translate the morals that were embedded in these values, are not being related to the children. And you see a lot of vices in the society because there's a disconnect. An incident happened. I went to school one day, and a friend of mine who came with money to school bought me a ball. And I took the ball back home. And my mother was like, where did you get that ball from? And I was like, my friend bought it for me. Your friend? She said, no, you didn't leave this house with that ball. And I felt embarrassed because Duma put me ahead. I had to take her to the house, and she had to engage my friend's mother.
Parents.
Yes, and the mother confirmed she gave him the money.
Mm.
And that was the only time, you know, that I had the liberty of taking the ball home. How many parents do that these days? They don't even know whether or not their children go to school. They don't know who their children spend time with. And these are issues. 2 days back, we saw on the social media a parent that had an absolute disconnect with his son, flogging the son for collecting 800,000.
Oh.
So that tells you there's a disconnect between the parent and the child.
The child, of course.
And that wouldn't have been the first time, but that is the only time the parent got to know.
Okay. Well, we've been talking about the need for one to understand the value given to culture that or should be given to culture and art and the essence of our existence as humans. There's the need for Nigerians or individuals to understand the value system for culture and art as a whole, and also how it should add value to the Nigerian economy. We're still here and we'll be talking more, but we'll take this break, and when we return, we'll bring you more issues around the need to improve our value system for art. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're still here, and I still have my guest with me in the studio, who's been giving us a breakdown, the essence for parents to understand the value for culture. Right now, I want to move a bit from that, although it's intertwined, but a bit of culture itself. Culture still has to do with arts as well, and also tourism. Let's look at culture. Culture promotes the economy through development. It's as a tool for sustainable development.
That's right.
How would you put that across for people to understand the value for culture? Yes, we mentioned our historical background, how we need to push for it, how we need to understand the value for training our children to understand language speaking, not throwing it away. How do we go about this whole thing, culture, tourism, to give back to the economy of the nation?
Wow. That's so much to be done. We have a lot of historical sites
Mm.
that needs to be developed into tourist attractions. Now, a lot of people travel to go and participate in other countries' carnivals
Mm.
and celebrations. The Mardi Gras in France, you know, you have a lot of carnivals going on. Brazil, Mexico, all over the world. Now, it is just packaging these cultures that we have. We have a wonderful wrestling festival in Fare, Adamawa State. We have wonderful fishing festival in Argungu.
Mm.
Okay, you also have Oshunoshobo. So many things.
Mm.
The Idanre Hills, so many places, and all these things are just left there. If government can come and invest into this and make these places tourist attractions, we don't have to be talking about oil. More so, we are getting to a phase that oil is losing its place of relevance in world economy. Right now, you have a lot of cars moving on energy, so they are basically solar powered. So we're moving from that particular area to the energy controlled economy. And the better, the sooner we diversify and develop what we have. One mistake we keep making is copying what other worlds, what other economies have
Mm.
already developed.
Mm.
And we don't develop our own. We have distinct heritage that does not exist any other place in the world. So nobody will leave the first 11 to come and watch the third 11
Mm-hmm.
where you're only copying. But
Okay.
when you can build up your own originality, your own specialty, and something that the world does not have at all, they will come to look at yours and pay highest dollar. Whatever price you put is what they will pay
Okay.
to appreciate what you have. But first, you have to package it in a way that it will be sellable.
Okay. All right. Don't forget our phone lines are there on your screen, and you can call to make a contribution. Let's hear from you. What is the challenge for lack of development in the arts, culture, and tourist uh, sector? Let's see how we can throw in more light on that and see how the government and private sectors can also contribute their quota. Yes, uh, Zadok, we've spoken about a lot of issues that the government also needs to contribute their own quota, but a lot of suffering is still there in the aspects of this culture itself. You mentioned a lot of cultures or tourist playout
Sites, yeah.
sites, yes. That of Calabar Carnival has been one that a lot of I know people travel down to the country to do a follow up on that. Can that be replicated in other states? Just because you mentioned there's a few states, we have 36 states plus the FCT. How many do we have around?
Yes, the the Calabar Carnival that you have mentioned has come to be what it is simply because the governors of Calabar saw that as an initiative and put some money into that
Okay.
and build it to where it is. Uh, if I remember, if my memory serves me right, I thought it was Donald Duke. Perhaps it was Donald Duke that started that, and of course, took Tinapa too to where it is right now. Now, if we have leaders that have value for arts and tourism, they will pump in money into that sector, and it will be a revenue spinner over time. And that is what our people are lacking. Medical tourism is something. Can you imagine if our herbs that do not have side effects as compared to orthodox medicine can be given a place of relevance? People will be coming to Nigeria for medical tourism. But as at today,
To go out.
exactly, because nothing has been important. We've not placed value on what we have, and that's the most annoying thing. We need to place value. We first need to understand what we have, then we can appreciate it. The Hausa man has a proverb.
Okay.
He says, "Inda aka san amfanin goro, na ake sa mata ganye." Where you value kola nut, that is where you cover it with leaves.
Okay.
You preserve it so that it doesn't get dried. You know?
Okay. Just like you've mentioned, you are someone that understands, and I see the passion with which you talk about these things, because you want to push for people to understand the value for all of this. What has been your own role? What have you put in place as an individual to ensure that the younger generation tend to value? Because I know it's a lot of talented young minds are there that have the passion to push for this, but there's no support. So what has the organization done to push for this?
Wow, we're doing so much. Last year we had a children's summer theater where we did it in partnership with NTA, and so we had children brought to the NTA for 1 week where they learned to research and script stories. They scripted stories, they wrote their plays, and they acted these plays. So the first thing they did was to go back and task their parents. We gave them assignments. Go back, tax your parents, let them tell you stories that has ethnic values, and script those stories into plays, one scene plays. The children did that and they acted them, and we've collected them into a book that we're publishing. And this year too, we're still doing the same thing with the children. This time we're even taking it out of just a children's summer theater writing. We're taking them into a camp during the long holidays, during the long vacation, you know. And for us, the sooner these children are connected to their values, the better. But that is one. We've also written the National Universities Commission. We've given them a concept note to the extent that final year theater art students that are interested in production could actually write scripts in their native languages, be them drama scripts, movie scripts, even musicals. And if they could write these scripts in their native languages and the universities will accept them as their final year projects, we'll be killing two birds with a stone. These undergraduates will understand that yes, they have market from their own ethnic origins. So they can research their ethnic origins, script plays and films based on that, and there'll be market. They'll be produced with English subtitles. We're preserving the languages by doing just that.
Okay.
We're promoting the languages by doing just that. And we're creating employment. These people do not need to leave the urban places, the rural places to the urban centers. Their employment will be guaranteed right in their villages. where they can script and act films and act dramas and get them recorded and packaged for export. And this will be foreign exchange spinners. So these are some of the things we are doing in African Theatre Development Foundation to see that we have people connected to their roots. And of course, all the ethnic nationalities, because we have we have a campaign we run, we call the Save Africa Project. The Save Africa Project is about creating awareness for people to know that our languages and cultures are going extinct, so that they can come on board and let's save these cultures. Let's ignite the passion in the young generation to get to be inquisitive about their roots, to be inquisitive about their heritage, to study, to find out about these things so that they can preserve them.
Okay.
Those are part of the things we're doing.
Okay, that goes a long way because, like I mentioned, a lot of talented young minds that tend to struggle.
Yeah.
I've seen. I remember when the president of France was in Nigeria to visit, and there was this young chap that gave him a piece of the gift, and he loved it so much, so he went forth to push for the essence to promote such kind of creativity. An awesome job you're doing there
Thank you.
for the young people to understand the relevance
Thank
for
you.
art. Let's look at financial constraints as well, because for every sector, the most things we hear from the government angle is paucity of funds. How can finances um, go out to push for the recognition of art and culture?
Now, this is very, very serious, because if government had seen the creative industry as the next industry that could pull out Nigeria out of the doldrums, government will rush into supporting this. Now, there were times you've had some mere rhetorics without real backing in terms of finance. There have been verbal supports, but even the moral support is not even there.
Mm.
You know, uh, a gentleman wrote a script that it's just an attention grabber, and what you really need to salvage part of the situations we are going through. And because he knows what we do, he came and met us. Can we finance this project? We said, okay, let's go to the relevant government body that should be interested in this. And we went, and they were like, wow, this is beautiful, but we don't have money. We don't even have money for our own enlightenment programs. So the only thing we can give you is endorsements, if that will be of any value to you. So the gentleman was so discouraged, but I told him, don't be discouraged. Start from where you can. You know? And yes, like we said, all we've been doing have been financed purely by passion. Some of our friends, and of course our personal savings. So there has been no time that you've all ever hear of government participation, or if you hear of any government partnering with any private initiative of this nature, is basically in terms of just lending their name for the project. It's not that government ever brings out money for any such project.
Okay, if you talk about the financing in this manner, I'm wondering, there's this center here in Abuja, Art and Culture Center. Of what relevance is that? And because I know the FCT have the Social Development Secretariat, where they talk about those issues, and then they have their gallery where they have all those materials put in place. So what's happening to that area?
I can tell you that most of the projects that National Council for Arts and Culture has executed in the recent past did not come through government funding. Uh, I'm aware that Otumba Ronshuwe had, through his friends and personal finance, hosted some of these programs.
Okay.
So, you hear names. The institutions are there, but are they being funded? That's the question we should ask.
Okay.
These institutions are not being funded. So they are there, and they have mandates to run, which when you look at them, written in black and white, sound so lofty and beautiful. But the life that should run that, which is the finance, is not there.
So I'm wondering in my head, how have they survived over time? Is it just that the structure is just there staring us over in the face and nothing goes on, no activity to push? Because like you mentioned, what you do as a body, you create room for the younger generation to have something to build on. So what have they been doing?
Well, I it's difficult to answer. Uh, but I can tell you today that if the government has uh, foreign dignitaries coming in, they want, of course, to showcase cultural performances.
Hmm.
Yes, as at that time, they will, as a matter of necessity, dip their hands into the coffers and bring out something that will just be enough to showcase this culture to these visiting dignitaries.
Mm.
At times, they just give instructions. Do that. And they expect it to happen.
Okay. I know at some points the FCT usually have this carnival, or what they call it,
Abuja Carnival.
Abuja Carnival. Yes. What, over time, I don't seem to hear anything like that anymore. Could it be around the same issue of the paucity of funds, or what went wrong? Because that's part of what we're pushing for.
Well, unfortunately, too, I don't see this particular administration has not actually given any attention to the creative industry, particularly in terms of uh, culture and cultural preservations and projections.
Okay.
So it's not taken out of the ordinary. It is a part of the whole gamut of of what the government is
Okay.
doing. And I don't know if it's a deliberate ploy, but the Ministry of Information and Culture has completely not been, it can, I mean, not doing what it should do in terms of cultural preservation and projection. No, 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 no. And I think too that lumping the the ministries together does a lot of injustice to culture. In other climes, the Ministry of Culture is the first and the most important ministry
Mm.
in other countries. Now, how dare you now lump in information and culture together? And then, oh God.
Okay. All right. There you have it. So much to say, so much to push for, and see that the relevance of art is put out there for Nigerians to understand. But before we go, because we're almost out of time, what's your word? What do you think should be done differently with the whole of the passion you have from the government, from private sectors to push for um, the culture and arts not to be forgotten?
Well, the government can wake up from its slumber by doing the right things, creating a healthy environment for tourism and culture to thrive. For instance, there's nothing demarketing Nigeria today in the international community like the restiveness we have, where even in Nigeria you cannot travel
Hmm.
on road from Abuja to Kaduna without the fear of armed robbery or kidnap. Foreign diplomatic missions are sending warnings to their countrymen as to where is not safe, Nigeria and this and that, and all the stories they read in the media. So that in itself is the marketing. We need to have a peaceful environment for businesses to thrive that will attract foreigners to come and see what we have in the first place.
Okay.
That is that. Then there has to be a deliberate ploy by government to see that our cultures are promoted deliberately.
Okay.
For instance, this awareness can be created in people. Instead of wearing suits, let's dress up in our natural cultural attires to the office. Make it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Start with, if we can't do the whole.
Okay.
Let's dress. Let every chief executive dress up in Ankara, okay, or Agbada, and however it is you express your culture. That will be a good starting point.
Okay. All right. I'm just smiling because I know a lot of Nigerians tend to live that pattern of lifestyle where they just dress in the whole native attire. And some of them can run through Monday through Friday, just like you mentioned. So I hope you're getting ready to copy or to look in your attire as an African or as a Nigerian so that our value will not be thrown away in terms of our lifestyle and culture. Thank you so much for being on set with
Thank you,
me
Anita.
this evening. We hope to talk more and push for the needful to value our culture, and more will come out, especially when it comes to the economy.
I hope so too.
All right.
I hope so.
Okay, it's been amazing having my guest with me in the studio, and you've heard him there. You've heard the need for us to value our culture and then push for the significance, looking at where we're coming from. And then, parents, please pay attention to your children, give them, transfer that value system in terms of culture, languages. Please don't throw them away because someday you will not be there anymore and they will be parents as well. They should have what to transfer to their own children. It's been amazing on the program Governance Today. Join us same time on Monday where we'll come back with more enlightening topics and exciting guests with us in the studio. My name is Anita Patrick. Enjoy your evening.